You're a TMS stakeholder and your company is not focused on these 5 simple but crucial customer strategies, then you're not in the best position to win and retain customers. I'm Ryan Miller, Vice President of Growth at Logistic Insurance Solutions. Logistic here, we're creating content continually about the transportation industry, insurance, sales and marketing strategies, and litigation trends. With that said, let's jump into this topic here. So first things first, the TMS industry is growing rapidly. Gartner says that the compound annual growth rate is somewhere along the lines of 12.5% a year. So they're expecting about $2.2 billion in revenue, total available market in 2024. And some massive numbers as time goes by, in the end of the 2020s. So a lot of expected growth. However, that's bringing a lot of supply as well. There's over 150 TMS vendors, lots of complaints about fragmentation. You've got your incumbents right now that are rapidly trying to evolve their business model. A lot of people entering the stage. So differentiation is the name of the game. And the clear winners are going to be the ones that really understand what their customers' needs are and create products and services that support what that demand really looks like. TMS companies are very focused on, building their core product and services. But what oftentimes happens is that they miss the small things that go a long way. And that's what we're going to talk about today. 5 small components that would massively change the retention rates and the way that your customers and prospects perceive you. First, great customer service. A lot of TMS companies are engineering first. And we see, in many other industries, every industry, there's really 2 types of companies. There's sales and marketing first, and then there's engineering first. And what generally happens is that the engineering first organizations develop great products, but they don't go to market as fast or as well as the sales and marketing focused ones. But the complaint is often that the product is inferior to the engineering focused companies, right? It's probably how you guys feel as well. So if you're really focused on engineering, or even if you're focused on the sales and marketing first, we really have to think about, or you have to be thinking about, what does my customer service look like after they're a customer, after they're a client? And the little things go a long way. 1, how easy are you guys to get on the phone? A lot of times these problems can be quickly solved, and people get really frustrated when they're dealing with a problem. So take a moment to consider how easy it is. Just try it out. See if you can get somebody on the phone if you have a problem. Second is, do you have a live chat? Is that available? That's a lot of times a fast way to resolve the communication problem. And then just really look at how fast are you guys resolving issues from when there's an initial ticket to when it's considered resolved. If it's more than 24 hours, or more than 15 minutes for a small problem, then you're probably frustrating your customers. Second, how effective is your marketing communications? Ask your head of marketing, what's our marketing communication strategy? If there isn't one, then that's a red flag. The other thing that I would caution, or that I would suggest you guys do, is look at your past 5 emails that you sent out to your customers. If it is consistently about new features, updates, integrations, things about your product or about scheduling, downtime, then you're missing quite a lot below the surface. What an effective marketing strategy does is it also takes into consideration, how are you presenting yourself as a thought leader to your customers, right? How are you differentiating from the others that are out there? So it's not just about your product, it's about who you're sending the email to. Think about what your customers want. If your main customers are, your users are motor carriers, freight brokers, what's relevant to them in the market? And if you develop content that addresses things that are important to them and what's happening in their industry, you're seen as more than just a cog, right? You're seen as a valuable resource. And they don't just look at you as someone who's providing them a service, but you're seen as an industry expert. It's so much better when you're trying to acquire new customers and when you're trying to retain them. So think about the kinds of content that you're creating and sending to your customers. Establish yourself as a thought leader. It goes far beyond the products that you're selling. Tip number 3, leverage your happy customers to win new ones. So we're in a society where people are skeptical of what sales and marketing is promising, right? Of course, we're going to say that we're the best solution. Of course, we're going to say that these suite of services are exactly what you're looking for. But where people trust is in reviews, right? That's why everybody goes to Amazon when they're, the Amazon reviews when they're looking at a product, right? So in the same sense, prospects are going to trust their peers far more than they are your own team, even if you happen to be a subject matter expert on it. So the concept, the idea is, how do you queue up those customer success stories and your customers singing praises about you? Well, develop case studies. You can do that in the form of video. You can do that in the form of printed content. Interview your customers, do a Zoom, ask them for their permission, figure out how to, spend some money and do it, professionally. There's a lot of different ways, but it's really going to be them that's going to drive that trust factor. So if you can get that information out in front of them on your website and with your email communications, or with your marketing communications, that's going to go a long way. Tip number 4, find ways to help your customers grow. So this is an interesting one, right? First is, it's human nature to value things that help us make money and help us to get out of trouble. We say people buy for 2 reasons when they're in 2 modes, in growth mode and in trouble mode. So if you have that mindset, how do I get my customers out of trouble, or how do I help them grow their revenue? And if you can develop tools for them to do those things, one or both of those things, and position it that way, then you will be seen as more than a commodity, right? So a TMS is central to a lot of these operations. And there are a lot of tertiary things that they're doing that they may not be able to do within your TMS today. Obviously, a lot of those can be done via integrations, but that's how I'd be looking at it. What integrations can bring more of what my customers are doing into a central place? What integrations are going to make the most impact on my customers' ability to grow their revenue and to solve a major problem that they have? Tip number 5, be a one-stop shop for your customers' needs. This is really tied to tip number 4, which has to do with integrations. But the important piece that I would say here would be, don't just rely on what your customers tell you that they want, because they may not know that you have a solution to a problem. If we think about the buying cycle in any scenario, not just purchasing, making a decision on a TMS, but on anything, whether you're going to get your lunch, whatnot, the cycle starts with understanding that there's a problem, and then defining, one is becoming aware that there's a problem, and 2 is understanding what the potential solutions are to that problem. So if your customers are in the early phase of that buying journey, then they may not be aware that a TMS integration can solve a problem that they have. And that's where you come in, is you look at what their day-to-day looks like, what are the problems and challenges that they're having, what are their aspirations and growth goals, and then you look at how that could potentially fit into your solution. And you go to market with something that solves a problem that they may not have known they had. All right, guys, really appreciate your time. If you like this video, let us know in the comments. Consider giving us a follow. We'll be creating more content based on our ongoing industry expertise that you can leverage to stay ahead.